News. Today I want to talk about the MDC. I am concerned because I am a founding member of the MDC and its first provincial chairperson for Mashonaland East. After the launch of the party in September 2009, I called for a meeting with the late president of the party, Morgan Tsvangirai. And the purpose of the meeting was to advise him to come up with an ideology that would be relevant to the development of Zimbabwe then. I suggested to him that if the party was to survive, it had to go to the extreme left of ZANU-PF. What I meant by going to the extreme left of the Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, ZANU-PF party, was that the MDC should denounce the Lancaster House Agreement, should denounce the Western system of governance, and come up with a new political and economic system which would emphasize the fully participation of Zimbabweans in the economic and political business of their country. I even advocated that we should take a very strong view on the land issue, that it needed adequate preparation of the African people to take over the land from the colonialists. But however, Mr. Tsvangirai was afraid to lose funding from the white commercial farmers, to lose funding from Britain and the Western world. So he adopted a strategy of demonizing the late leader of ZANU-PF, the late president, Robert Mugabe, as a dictator. Rally upon rally, Tsvangirai emphasized on the dictatorship of Mugabe. And then later on, it was dictatorship of Mugabe coupled with the suffering of the people. Then appeared as if the whole purpose of the MDC was to make people suffer so that they can protest. And by protesting, then the MDC would come into power. So they engaged in what I call protest politics. It nearly succeeded in 2008, in March 2008. But then it was not enough. So they had to go for re-election. Again, it was a reputation of the strategy of demonizing Mugabe and emphasizing on the suffering of the people. That is when they even advocated for sanctions against Zimbabwe, so that the economy will scream. And when the economy screams, then people will protest. And when people protest, then the MDC can come into power. This continued even after the death of Shanghai. It has always been emphasizing on the dictatorship of the leader and the suffering of the masses, which gives an impression that the MDC sees the suffering of the people as a way of getting into power. But that does not work. So, I am advising that the MDC should take advantage of the recent decision of the Supreme Court. Come together, formulate a solid political ideology that is relevant to the development of Zimbabwe, that is relevant to the development of Africa. They should develop an ideology that emphasizes on the hard working of Zimbabweans for themselves, not to rely on friends with deeper pockets, not to rely on engagement and re-engagement. When it comes to the economy, emphasize that Zimbabweans are their own liberators. No outside power can ever intervene to alleviate the suffering of the people of Zimbabwe. It has to be Zimbabweans themselves. Maybe the MDC should take a leaf from Julius Malema of South Africa. He is gaining quite a lot of ground in South Africa, amongst the people of South Africa, because he emphasizes on the removal of the colonial system. He emphasizes on Pan-Africanism. This is what is relevant in Africa today. It's not democracy. It's not friends with deeper pockets. It's not re-engagement and engagement. It is that people must work harder for themselves. In Zimbabwe, we are very lucky in the sense that this has happened before. The colonialists lived a higher standard of living in the world, in Zimbabwe, because they worked harder and harder for themselves. They did not enjoy that standard of living out of crumbs from America or Britain. They worked harder for themselves. So we should have taken over from what they were doing and did much better than they did, worked harder than they did to also enjoy the highest standard of living in Zimbabwe. We should have taken our people away from the mentality of dependence to a mentality of doing things for themselves. We did not do that. And unless we do that, we will continue to suffer. That is why it is important that the MDC has come up with a new ideology that is relevant to the development of Zimbabwe, that is relevant to the development of Africa. They could even advocate for a federation of the Southern African states as a stepping stone towards the establishment of a United States of Africa. These are the issues that are relevant to Africa today, not democracy. Not friends with deeper pockets, not engagement and re-engagements, not foreign domestic investment. We have to be our own liberators, both politically and economically. Again, this is the voice in the wilderness, but the voice of true revolution. I thank you. See you in my next video.